Beneath the heavy humidity of the Buenos Aires docks in the late 19th century, a new sound began to exhale from the slums. It was born in the arrabales, the outskirts of the city, where European immigrants, former slaves, and rural gauchos collided, mixing their disparate musical traditions. This synthesis didn't happen in concert halls. It played out on dusty street corners, in the slums, and inside the local brothels. What emerged was the original tango, a scandalous, rhythmic dialogue forged by those living in poverty. This humble, functional origin provides the necessary context for the genre's eventual transition into elite high art. In its earliest iteration, tango served a single utility. It was music built for the feet. This structural model illustrates the mechanics of the Guardia Vieja, or the Old Guard. It relied on a rigid, predictable 2/4 beat. That strict rhythm was engineered for a specific physical purpose: to lock dancers into a tight, provocative embrace on the floor. Because physical movement was the priority, melody remained secondary. The instruments served the functional requirements of the rhythm. As the commercial recording industry grew in the early 20th century, this traditional format was captured on 78 RPM records for mass consumption. Vocalists like Carlos Gardel became the definitive figures of this era, establishing the Guardia Vieja style as a global standard. For tango to evolve into an intellectual pursuit, the foundational mechanics that drove its popularity, the predictable beat and functional stability, had to be rewritten. That evolution began with Astor Piazzolla, a musician who spent his formative years in New York City. In New York, Piazzolla was exposed to the structural influences of George Gershwin and the harmonic dissonance of jazz. These frameworks became part of his musical vocabulary. In the mid-20th century, Piazzolla traveled to Paris to pursue rigorous classical composition. He studied under Nadia Boulanger, the legendary conservatory instructor who evaluated his orchestral scores. At first, Piazzolla tried to hide his background in tango. He feared the music of his home was too unsophisticated for the classical world. After reviewing his work, Boulanger noted that while his classical pieces were technically correct, his unique genius was found exclusively in the tango. Piazzolla's subsequent breakthrough came from returning to tango while applying the analytical tools of the classical conservatory and the jazz club. This approach resulted in the birth of Nuevo Tango. Piazzolla broke with the old guard by purposefully making the music undanceable. He broke the steady 2/4 milonga pulse and replaced it with a complex 3+3+2 syncopation. This staggered pattern creates immediate tension. By disrupting the even blocks, he denied the listener a predictable landing point. On top of this uneven foundation, he introduced classical counterpoint borrowed from Johann Sebastian Bach. Instead of instruments moving together in unison, Nuevo Tango utilizes intricate fugues, where different instruments chase each other through the score. He added harmonic dissonance to amplify the melancholic melodies. He also introduced the electric guitar, placing a modern, aggressive texture inside a genre previously defined by acoustic nostalgia. By severing the predictable beat and layering complex counterpoint, Piazzolla shifted tango's target from the feet of the dancer to the mind of the listener. This structural complexity required a new method of performance. He abandoned the massive orchestra tipica. In its place, he established a lean, reactive chamber group, the Quinteto Tango Nuevo. The physical posture of the musician changed. Piazzolla stood while playing the bandoneon, perching one foot on a stool. Standing allowed him to use his entire body weight to expand and compress the bellows, injecting physical force into the instrument. This physical aggression led to harsh accents and percussive hits directly onto the wooden bodies of the instruments. He incorporated screeching violin glissandos, creating a deliberate and abrasive sonic texture. This musical shift demanded a total physical reinvention of how the musicians interacted with their instruments in space. When Piazzolla debuted Nuevo Tango in Argentina, the social backlash was immediate. Public figures branded him a traitor and a tango killer. The resistance was driven by a belief that tango was a static historical artifact, a museum piece that should never be structurally altered. The rejection escalated to literal death threats against Piazzolla. To those whose identity was linked to the traditional dance, Removing the functional beat was perceived as an act of violence against their culture. Piazzolla moved the genre from the strictures of the dance floor to the focused silence of the concert hall. The underlying emotional angst remained, but the mechanical blueprint was completely rewritten. By making the music undanceable, he achieved his goal of forcing the audience to actively listen. Today, Piazzolla's complex fugues are standard repertoire for the world's leading philharmonics. He proved the raw soul of the arrabal could command the classical masters. This was brought to you by Notes and Silences. Thank you for listening.